Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. So Jaron Boots Ennis stops Royman Villa in the 10th round. Brilliant performance by Ennis. He moves to 31 wins with 28 KOs, no draws, no defeats, one no contest. But this was just a real beautiful performance by Ennis. I mean, he showed all the tools in his toolbox. And he knows when to take which tools out to use and when, because he just dominated Villa, who is a tough as nails competitor. Villa just, I mean, talk about, that there's a phrase, you got to knock him out to beat him. Well, this is Royman Villa, because Villa just did not take a backward step, even though he was taking full-blooded uppercuts, huge hooks, body shots. His attitude was, "You're going to have to kill me," and thankfully it didn't come to that. But gradually he was ground down, and in the 10th round it was just too much. But from the start, I mean, I suppose benefit of hindsight, you could say from the start the writing was on the wall. Ennis was just leagues ahead in every department. If you've seen Villa fight before, you'll know he comes forward, he throws huge hooks, and that's really all he does. He actually doesn't have a bad jab when he uses it. He kind of sort of pops with the jab, and then to get him through the front door, and then he'll swing those huge hooks in. But there is some method to Villa's aggression, and he kind of uses, even though he's quite limited technically, he uses what he does have quite effectively at times. And we saw that against Rashidi Ellis. Well, against Ennis, he didn't get a look in, not really, because Ennis came out and the first punch he threw was a jab. It fell a little bit short, but from then on, the jab, in that first round, he must have thrown 40 or 50 jabs. It was just bang, bang, bang. And I don't think Villa landed a punch in the opening round. It was just a thing of beauty. And there were a few power punches from Ennis. He spent most of that round, most of the first round, as an orthodox fighter. And he was firing power punches, just occasionally, just sort of testing the water. But Villa couldn't get near him. Villa didn't land a punch. And then towards the end of the first round, Ennis turned southpaw. So he wins that round at a canter. Second, third, fourth round, gets a bit closer. By the second round, Villa's already bleeding quite profusely from the nose. Villa's getting a little bit closer, but lands the odd punch, but absolutely nothing to trouble Ennis. And the first 4 rounds, Ennis just sweeps him. And then in the 5th round, Villa started to really get his skates on, and he kind of lunged forward and started to really make his presence felt. It's almost like he thought, okay, I've lost like a third of the fight. I'm going to have to get a move on here. And he stormed forward, and he was throwing, again, those huge hooks. What else? And he did land a few. He did land a couple of, meaty hooks. One to the body as well, I think, in the 5th round. And Ennis looked, mildly perturbed, not hurt, not shaken, but, hang on a minute, I'm not meant to be getting hit. He was hit a few times in that 5th round, and I actually gave that 5th round as close as it was to Royman Villa, and you thought, is this a changing of the tide? Well, in the 6th round, Villa had, for the first 2.5 minutes, had, some reasonable success. Again, it was close. Ennis was still doing his thing, lots of jabs. Whenever Ennis let his hands go, it was beautiful flowing of punches. He actually, from the back end of the first round through the second, I think he stayed southpaw. He might have stayed southpaw for most of the first 4 or 5 rounds. And he kept switch hitting, and he does it so effortlessly. It's beautiful to watch. But in the 6th round, Villa was carrying on from the 5th round, doing well. And then suddenly Ennis lands a walloping overhand right, shakes Villa right to his boots, and for the first time, Villa looks hurt. He staggers back, and Villa cannot fight going backwards. I mean, he doesn't think about going backwards. You've really got to knock him backwards. And, as wobbly as his legs were, he tried to move forwards. But clearly Ennis was starting to rail on him, landing big punches, was going for the knockout, didn't quite get it. And in the 7th round, you thought, okay, Ennis is going to pick up where he left off. In actual fact, I think, was it the 6th or the 7th where Villa actually started to jab a lot more? He was pinging that sort of pop jab out and getting in close. It might have been the 8th, I can't remember now, but He didn't come close to winning another round, Veer. The fifth, I gave him the fifth. That's the only round I gave him, and a lot of people didn't even give him that. But he did have a little bit more success. Ennis started to introduce the uppercut from, I don't know, he was flinging uppercuts from about the sixth round, maybe seventh round, and they were pinging off Veer's chin. I mean, it was shocking to watch. Veer's got a steel jaw. I mean, if you want to knock him down, never mind knock him out, you've just got to pour everything on him. And then in the 8th and the 9th, I think between the 8th and the 9th, the doctor actually stepped up and had a look at Veer and said, you know, what's going on here? You've got to show me something here. I'm going to stop it. And I don't think Veer's corner were very happy either. Well, they wouldn't be, would they? Their guy was losing everything. But they started to look a bit worried about him, but they let him out for the 9th. That was another Ennis round, pretty dominant. Again, Veer just coming forward, moving forward, trying to get into punching range to land those big hooks. There was some, you know, occasional bit of, I wouldn't say he's a dumb fighter, Veer. He uses what he's got. It's just that against Ennis, he was up against someone who was superior in every way. Just a more talented guy. And then in the 10th round, Ennis closed the show. He was just teeing off on Veer. He landed a huge, I don't know what stance he was in. Was he in a, let me work this out. I think he would have been in a southpaw stance, I think it was. Because he landed a big overhand right, which landed bang on Veer's jaw. Veer staggered back. And then as he was sort of staggered to one side, Ennis fired a big right hook, which landed on his jaw, the other side of his jaw. And then there was a big swooping overhand left. Yeah, it was an overhand left that started. Then there was a right hook, and then there was another left which kind of missed. But it's almost as if the sort of wind from the missed punch toppled Veer down, and he sort of fell into the bottom rope, and the referee stopped it. And to be honest with you, the referee looked like he was going to stop it anyway before that. In fact, he visited the corner between the 9th and the 10th to have a look at Veer, and it was a kind of one of those, you know, you better show me something, otherwise I'm not going to let you get hurt. And that was that. I mean, Ennis' performance was brilliant against an incredibly game fighter. And I hope this hasn't taken too much out of Royman Veer, because Royman Veer, you know, he's probably a top 6 welterweight, and if this hasn't taken too much out of him and cut his career short, he can be in a lot of fun fights, and he can beat a lot of guys as well. I mean, he's not what you call an A- or A fighter, or certainly not an A+ fighter. He's probably a B+ fighter. But I like Royman Veer a lot. But Ennis, if he doesn't get the winner of Bud and Spence, I think it'll be a great shame, because he's kind of earned it, and they've got a 2-fight deal, Crawford and Spence, so they'll have to get that out of the way. But Ennis is only 26, and you know, it's frightening to think how good he could be in a couple of years' time. He's very, very good with so many different, such a variety of punches. They all flow beautifully. And okay, he was hit a few times by Veer, but if you've got a guy who sort of rampages towards you, firing huge hooks, and you yourself are offensive-minded, you're going to get tagged a few times. But I really like Ennis. I think he's such a good fighter, and I'd probably put him in the top 10 pound for pounders in any division. So this was for the IBF interim title, which of course is meaningless, because we all know that the real IBF champ is Errol Spence. But never mind that. Forget that crap. You know, this is a real bona fide superstar in the making. Very, very great fighter indeed. Very, very good fighter. We'll reserve judgment as to whether he's great, but he's very, very good. And yeah, so anyway, if you saw the fight, leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. I really enjoyed watching Ennis, and I was really quite stunned by Veer's courage. He played his part in what was a very, very good fight. A very good showcase for Ennis, actually. And I hope Veer can come back. Let me know what you think. Where do you think Ennis is going? Where do you put him in that pecking order? Below Bud and Spence, I suppose you might, but he's certainly the 3rd best welter in the world, no question about it. Do you think they would talk of putting a Conor Benn in with this guy? Jesus Christ, can you imagine that? Ennis by murder, that would be the verdict there. Yeah, let me know what you think. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button as always, and We'll speak again soon.